Hello and welcome to Course Like Your Car Brochure channel. In today's episode, the Austin Metro. Hello and welcome back to Course Like Your Car Brochure channel, where we look at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, please consider subscribing. Anyway, back to today's episode. We're having a journey back to 1983 to look at this Austin Rover brochure. Last week was the introduction where we started looking at the Mini, the first car in this range. Next model up is the Austin Metro, kind of like the car that was originally designed to replace the Mini but didn't. But anyway, let's go straight into this 1983 brochure. So I think the best place to start is to go back to this front cover again, because the first car there is a Metro and we're looking at the Metros today. And this was the limited edition Gala. And 1983 was a really good year. I think it was the best year for the Metro actually. They sold something like 130,000 cars in Britain, so it was really doing well at this time, and this was kind of like a celebration of how well these Metros were doing. So let's have a look at that first. And it starts off, straight into the first page, looking at this special edition, the Austin Metro Gala. So let's have a look at some of these images and a bit of this text. Okay, so here is the Gala itself, and very much a celebration car, because like we said, 1983 was such a good year. 130,000 were sold in Britain in that year, kind of like the best year for the Austin Metro. And it tells you that how much of a celebration it was. A Gala launch for the Metro's second half million, following on from the $500,000 Austin Metro celebration. Austin Rover are continuing the party with the exciting new Metro Gala limited edition model. Based on either a 1.1 litre L or a 1.3 L, Gala models are finished in cashmere gold or moonraker blue clear coats metallics and carry a Gala motif on each flank. Extra equipment includes glass tilting or removable sunroof, an analog clock, and the seating is superbly crafted in Rover style plain and pinstripe velvet. Completing the specifications is a radio stereo cassette player with door bin mounted speakers. 1.3 Gala models have the additional distinction of bright wheel trims, although the wheel trims look pretty much the same as any other model really. Among the first cars ever to be equipped as standard with a bottle of champagne. I don't know how many special editions came with a bottle of champagne. That's quite unique. Metro Galas will keep their bubbly character long after the lucky owners have enjoyed their own celebration, I should say. Why not make every journey a Gala occasion with one of these sparkling models? And we'll certainly look at the rest of the Metro range in a moment, but you can see here there is that glass sunroof, even showing that bottle of champagne you receive when you get this model. And there is the interior, quite nice looking seats actually, with the head restraints on there, and kind of like a typical little radio cassette player for the time. And then we have to go past the Mini range that we looked at last week to arrive at the Austin Metro range, Britain's best little car, it says here. And it was a very successful car. The MG versions shown here, actually the MG versions won the What Car magazine Car of the Year for 1983. MG versions arrived in around about 1982. The Metro itself launched in 1980, of course. Very successful car. One of the reasons why it was so successful was it was actually very well designed, as I think a lot of Austin Rovers were really. I think we kind of like forget what good designs they were. I know we complain about various different things, but you know, they were good designs, and it was actually, you know, probably the most spacious little super mini of its time. It was very well designed in that aspect, and of course hatchbacks are what people really wanted at the time. But anyway, let's turn the page and see the first model in the range. So these are the most basic versions. They're not even an L car. The most basic of them all was called the Metro City. Interesting to talk about the name as well, because the name Metro was a bit of a controversial one at the time, because they already had a manufacturer for trains and buses, Metro Camel. They were already in business with the Metro name, and they kind of like made a bit of a fuss. You can't use the Metro name. Austin Rover said, oh, don't worry about it, we'll call it the Austin Mini Metro, which they did at the start, but then they kind of like stopped calling it the Mini Metro. It was all very bit weird and a little bit underhanded really, but nevertheless, here's the City with the City graphics on it, the most basic version, and down the bottom here is kind of like a model I've kind of like forgotten, just called the Austin Metro Standard, which was actually one model above the City. We'll certainly have a look at some of these images and a little bit of this text as well. So here is the City with those steel wheels, which we'll see in a lot of the models. Metro decal on the side. They're quite a low lip, so a very practical hatchback really. This very basic model, I don't think it even came with a parcel shelf in there, which isn't showing on there at all. Interior, very sort of simple. We might get to see better pictures later on, but the dash was actually very clever. It was a dashboard that we kind of like seen in the Range Rover, the Rover SD1. If we can clear that up a little bit, it is a bit unfocused, isn't it? There we go, that's a little bit clearer. Where it was kind of like a shelf design where you could just move the little pod to make it either left or right hand drive, which was a clever thing and certainly must have saved quite a bit of money. Seats on the Metro City, very basic. No, not even head restraints or anything on there. And then a bit of a look. What's this kind of like showing us? A bit of a look at the space inside, I guess. Oh yeah, I see. It's looking through the hatch, isn't it, with the seats folded back. Not a split folded on these base models though. And then we get the next model up with this, what they call the Metro Standard. Like I said, I don't really remember the Standard, but same wheels, obviously, very similar specs. Actually, it wasn't that much more luxury in it. We got a little bit of a stripe on it this time instead of a City badge. I do particularly like it in this shade of yellow though. We get another look at that dashboard, probably a better look to see how they could just move that pod over to make it left or right hand drive. Like I said, a clever little idea. And we got these slightly nicer seats in it now, but again, no head restraints. But if you notice at the back, you can just about make out the parcel shelf on this one. So here is the text, and of course you can read it and pause the screen if you want. I'm not going to read it all because there is a lot of models to get through in this particular brochure. It's telling me it's powered by a 44 bhp A+ engine. Advanced hydrogas suspension there as well. And then it goes on to tell us hatchback convenience in the Metro City begins with a big tailgate. You know, it was practical. I'm kind of like almost look at these back as a little bit of a jokey car, but it was a clever solution to the need of British Leyland needing a small hatchback really. And then we get to the Austin Metro Standard, moving up a step from the City. The Standard model has benefits of 46 bhp engine, other additional features: reversing lamps, heated rear window, choke warning lamp, hinge detachable rear parcel shelf, marl fabric width seat facings, passenger sun visor, and rigid store bins. There are a few little extras. You could actually get on these base models as well. And then right at the bottom here, it kind of gives you the figures for the fuel economy. A pretty respectable fuel economy figures for the time. Next model up is the L, and we can see this, so it's like 60-40. I believe it's 60-40 anyway. Split rear folding seats, making it a little bit more practical. Again, it's still classed as a base model, so we still get sort of indicators in the bumpers and this recessed headlight. A little bit strange. I mean, they're not really saving money from doing this design to the later design, which we'll see in a moment, but kind of like it was a time where car manufacturers really like to show differences in their higher models. I have to say I actually prefer the lower model design. I think it looks a little bit better. It's probably not quite as aerodynamic as having the smooth headlamps, who knows, but I do prefer that design to the higher spec ones, weirdly enough. Available as both a 1 litre and a 1.3. Let's zoom in and have a look at some of these images. So same wheels, aren't they? We got this nice sort of white stripe, which looks quite striking actually for a simple white stripe. Another look at that interior. Different steering wheel. We've gone to a 4-spoke from that very basic 2-spoke one which we saw before. We've also got head restraints in this model, and certainly the seats look a little bit nicer. And then some very random picture of some guy in a suit. Not sure why. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the text. Text is really just showing the little extras that the L has on there, which of course you can pause the screen and read it if you really want to. Like I say, we're going to be pushed for time because this particular brochure is kind of like huge, and there is also a spec page right at the end telling us that L stands for luxury as well as load space. Not convinced that the L stands for load space. And then you've got this 1.3L, so a 1275 engine, so a little bit more engine there, but still a very economical vehicle. Tell us some of the extras you could have, and in fact that Gala was based on the L model, and here optional extras, glass sunroof, and a little bit of a look at that fuel economy and how that larger engine affects it. Then we move into the sort of the luxury end of the Austin Metros at this time. You can see straight away we've got these flush headlamps now, the indicators removed from the bumper to the side, and like I say, I'm sure it didn't save any money having this design to the more basic designs, but they just like to really show you had a base model. Always quite like this sort of like spoiler on the back on these higher spec ones and the MGs. I think that quite suited the car. Still got the same steel basic wheels though. Available as a 1 litre or a 1.3 HLE. We'll have a look at some of these images. So we can see straight away these very basic steel wheels are still on the HLE. Have a look at that sort of luxury front end. Interior now tweed fabric seat facings, head restraints, rear seats with that split on it, and the interior. And I guess this is probably the best image of that dash to really understand how easy it was to change it from left to right hand drive. So the E really is for economy on this version. The theme of combining maximum fuel conservation with comfort and refinement has been taken still further with the latest 1 litre HLE. Advances such as a 3+E transmission, low rolling resistant tyres and a drag reducing rear spoiler helps to raise the 56 miles per hour constant speed economy to an astounding 64.9 64.1, which is amazing. Did anyone actually really get 64.1 from it? I don't know. So it's saying distinguished by styled halogen headlamps with integral interior, so indicator lamps and a side rubbing strip with a bright insert. The HLE is invitingly trimmed with tweed fabric upholstery. It also has several other features in addition to the 1 litre L, such as analog clock, opening rear quarter light windows. This has to be the model to get because it's got those rear quarter light windows. An internal adjustable driver's door mirror, colour keyed seat belts, a rear load space lamp and side repeater flashes on the front wings. And like I say, this was available as a 1 litre or a 1.3 as it's telling us there. Optional equipment, stereo radio cassette, metallic paints, sunroof, usual sort of thing. And kind of a look at that fuel economy and that great figure that 1 litre HLE having at 56 constant miles per hour, 64.1. I don't know how easy that was to achieve though. Strangely, the automatic is not really badged as anything but the Metro Automatic, but there it is. So they've got HLE front end, HLE style rubbing strips, same HLE front end of course. Interior, look at that automatic transmission. A little bit of a look how fancy you could adjust the mirrors from inside. And then tweed seat facings. In all intensive purposes, it's HLE trimmed. It does say here pointed to the same standard as the 1.3 HLE. Kind of think it would be called something, wouldn't you? HL automatic, HLE automatic. I don't know, but to call it nothing at all is a little bit weird. But like I say, you could get an automatic with your Metro. Similar sort of optional extras. Fuel economy obviously is going to be affected a little bit by the fact it's an auto. So there we go, now we get to the MG range. Interesting, like I said at the start, we're about 82 when the MGs arrived, so relatively new at this time in 1983 still. Let's zoom in on these images. So we get these flush headlamps like we do on the higher spec Austin Metros. MG badge this time, a bit of red, more sort of MG Metro decals down the side. Standard alloy wheels, which are nice. I think they're only 12-inch, but still nice for them to put these on there. We also get these sort of nicer head restraints on there as well. And I think we also get red seat belts. Doesn't really show it, but you can just about make it out, I guess. Interior wise, brightened up by that little MG badge and sort of these, it's like red stitched steering wheel. You can also see that very strange rake of the steering wheel. A closer look at those nice alloys. The rear, which I really remember this, all this red on the back, MG Metro in red, 1300 in red. This nice sort of spoiler that goes around the window. The engine itself also continuing with this red theme. Much nicer seats with this sort of red stitching. It really brightens it up, I think, a bit of red on the car. And I don't know, a very random picture. Let's have a look at some of the specs. Like I said, I don't want to go crazy by reading it because it is a big range and I'm kind of conscious I'm trying to get around about the 20 minutes for these brochure videos, which I'm sure I'll go over, but I don't want to go crazy. Bit of text, you can read it if you want to. It's talking about the MG 1300 is every inch the enthusiast car, even down to the underbonnet appeal of the polished alloy rocker covers on the high performance 72 bhp engine. And it tells us some of the equipment you get on there: tachometer, leather bound 3-spoke steering wheel, sport seats. It says throughout the interior this red theme, which we've kind of like looked at. And it tells us, you know, this is kind of like an upper range model, but like I say, you can read it all if you really want to. Optional extras: a removable sunroof, that radio cassette player which you can have, metallic finishes. Fuel economy is still very good though. This for me though is the most interesting one in the Metro range, the MG Metro Turbo. So let's have a look at some of these images and some of the text. Very much a car that reminds me of the 80s. MG badge at the front. If you had a turbo, you really had to tell people you had a turbo. Nice sort of with this black lower body treatment. I quite like this. Bigger alloy wheels this time. These are now 13 inch rather than the 12 inch. That interior continuing with that sort of red theme. Very nice engine by air with these sort of alloy covers. The theme continues with the 80s. If you had a turbo, you really had to tell people. Opening rear quarter lights, typical random image, and the seats a much nicer place to be, like I say, with this sort of red treatment. I think red was the colour to get for these turbos. Again, you can pause the screen and read it all if you really want to, but we've got a 93 bhp engine. It also tells us there's some kind of conjunction with Lotus with the development, which is interesting. It tells us it's got double the power of the Metro City. Interesting stuff. Lots of turbo decal information. Similar sort of theme to the other MG in the range, but it is telling us features unique to the turbo, including a light emitting diode boost gauge within the tachometer face, where the digital clock would normally be found, and the latter is therefore housed in the centre fascia, and a neat turbo badge in the centre of the steering wheel. So no MG badge in the middle, just saying turbo. And a little bit of information telling you, 112 miles per hour in this little car. Scary stuff. Optional extras: glass or steel sunroof and that radio stereo cassette player, and black or metallic paint. Fuel economy still very respectable when you drive it sensibly. And we haven't finished yet. There's one more model in the range. We're back to the Austin Metros now, with the so-called top of the range Metro at the time, the Vanden Plas, or Vanden Plas. I usually call Vanden Plas personally, but apparently I'm told you have to call that Vanden Plas now. But there we go. I don't really care how you say it. It's the top of the range Metro. Okay, so here it is zoomed in, the Austin Metro Vanden Plas, I'm going to call it. It's got obviously the top of the range front flush headlamps with the indicators next to them. There's like a chrome rubbing strip down the side, chrome plating or look around the window. Obviously this is a high spec car, so you have to look a little bit posh. Posh ladies in the 80s tended to wear Dead Animal. Vanden Plas decals, Vanden Plas steering wheel. Much nicer interior, particularly like the head restraints. Obviously a bit more updated. It's got kind of like an extra little bit on there as well for a bit more comfort, I think. We do finally get a sunroof as standard and more Dead Animal. So, telling us the Metro Vanden Plas is the ultimate choice, but we're not going to give you alloy wheels. The high grade luxury small car. distinguished by bright finishes on the radiator grille, front and rear screen surrounds, side rubbing strips, and on the wheel trims. Wheel rims, I should say. Oh, we'll give you a bit of a chrome rim on them steel wheels, so you should be happy. Special coach lines and the VP motifs. But inside, the special richness of the Vanden Plas motoring is most apparent. It tells you little things like veneer door cappings, which kind of missed. I might have another look at those veneer door cappings, leather bound steering wheel, etc, etc. You can read all that if you want, but think cut pile carpeting and much luxury like that. Telling us it's a 1275 62 bhp power unit. Still can get optional extras on there though, metallic or clear coat, paint finishes or black, stereo radio cassette. We don't get standard, so that can be an option. We can have it as an automatic as well. Fuel economy still pretty good. Suffers a little bit more with the automatic, of course. I'm going to have a look at these door cappings. Oh, there you go. That's very Vanden Plas. Very nice. Okay, specification time. I'm not going to really talk too much during this, but you can pause the screen at any time if you do want anything in particular. Starting with the base models, the Metro City and the Metro Standard. All 12-inch steel wheels. We've got instrumentation and the interior features. Like I say, pause the screen if you do want to read it all. Body features. And then we move up to the next model up, which is the L. Still tiny little 12-inch wheels. Electrical features and interior features before we move up to the HLE. Interior features, body features, and then we get to that automatic, which is saying as the HLE with the following variations. And then the MGs, saying again like the HLE with the following variations. Engine, that nice little 1275. Interior features, body features, and then that really, I'm sure, a very rare car today, the MG Metro Turbo with a turbocharged 1275 93 bhp. So we do have ventilated front discs on this, but we've still got drums on the back. Instrumentation, body features, if you can just about make that out in the fold. And then we move on to the Vanden Plas, like the HLE, but with the following variations. Like I said, strange that they've got steel wheels on there. I know we're putting those alloys on the performance MGs, but there you go. I guess you really buy this for the wood door cappings, don't you? And then finally the body features, bright inserts and VP motifs everywhere. You do get a glass sunroof though. Okay, colour choice then for your Metro. You can get it obviously in white or black. Black though is a little bit extra. You can also get it in silver leaf metallic, cashmere gold metallic, and that cinnabar red. Moving down the list, you could also get it in that Oporto red. I guess Primula yellow. We did see a Primula yellow one, didn't we? Opaline green metallic and zircon blue metallic. Them two colours kind of really remind me of the British Leyland cars at this time. And of course that clove brown, a very sort of more of a 70s colour than an 80s colour, really. You can also get it in Eclipse blue, this sort of nice dark blue colour, and this Moonraker blue metallic you couldn't get unless you got that sort of like special edition which we talked about at the start of the show. Next week, one of the newer models in the Austin Rover time at this time, probably one of my favourites as well, the Austin Maestro. And again, we've got MG badged ones as well. Thank you once again for watching Quarterlight and the Austin Metros and the MG Metros. I'm sure many of you will have memories of these, so certainly jot them in the comments. I always enjoy reading them. If you've not subscribed already, please can you do so? That would be fantastic, very much appreciated, and like the video if you enjoyed it. But thank you so much for watching today. Many more brochure review videos coming up, so for now we'll say take care and goodbye.